you can use your voice. But our ability to share a message lives in the emotional and physical body. And when we start to get into this a little bit more, we're going to do some little exercises and things to hopefully, kind of wake some of that up. I invite you. We're good. All right. I'm going to add some instruments. So if we get even extra feedback, it'll just be a little bit of fun. But I invite you to think about what is the message that you feel really called to share. It could be something that you feel called to share with the world, right, at large, that you really want to get out there. It could be something that you personally are feeling like you need to say for yourself. Bring that into your mind and just notice what comes up for you as you think about that. I'm going to play a little song. You probably recognize it. Thank you. Our voice and sound. I mentioned earlier today that I have a really strong background in yogic philosophy. And what we learned there is that our voice and sound are directly related to the element of space, or ether. Right? Sound waves move through space. We are all connected in vibration through space. There's even research now being done. One of my favorite researchers on this space, his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. There are others, maybe you've heard of him, but he's now proving that our thoughts even have frequencies. So our thoughts are vibrations that connect us through space. Our voice, right, has these wavelengths. You probably notice, through the song, right? What happens to the difference in your body as you hear music, as you hear different qualities of the music? Which parts of the song maybe brought up something more in you than others? When we think about that message, right, I asked you to think about what kind of message, hello and welcome, make yourselves at home. We're thinking about what kind of message we really want to share. So with that in mind, we're going to do some exercises that help in a few different ways adjust the vibrations that we have going on around our message. So if you have a pencil and you want to write something down, or if somebody wants to write this down for you, a couple questions I really like to ask are, right, so what is the message that you desire to share? We ask that. If you want to write that down, you can. Then second, what is a barrier that you feel comes up for you when you're trying to communicate that? What is that? I'll give you just even a few moments to kind of think about it. Right now we'll just either write it down or think about it. Hello. No problem. That's the nature of these things. So yeah, what's your message that you really feel called to share? And what's a barrier or a few barriers that come up? Is it an emotional barrier? Is there some physical barrier? Is there some other resource barrier? There's no right or wrong here. Okay? So with that, I want to start, we're going to just do a little bit of something. I'm going to ask you to chime in here in a little bit, but really think about think about that barrier. Think about what is it? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Think about that and think about, or notice in your body, where do you kind of feel that show up? If you really think about, gosh, maybe there's something that's really frustrating. I know we don't really like to think about the barrier, that's not fun, but imagine it. Where does it show up for you? I want you to kind of feel into that a little bit. We're gonna play into that. Is there a question already or just kind of ready? Okay, got it. First, with that, yeah? We can go take a question.
I don't mean to disturb you.
Hey, it's all good. We're here just to hang out.
Hi, my name is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
It's so hard to talk to a lot of people. The question I had was, for someone who has social anxiety, how could you help a person get through that, but at the same time help them with the battle of not knowing oneself?
Anxiety is such a big component and one of the big barriers that so many of us feel when we're trying to communicate. And you're right, it's knowing oneself. That's part of that process. And we'll go through, and I'll make sure to point out some things that I think are really, really valuable for anxieties and for fears. I'll even share a couple stories of different things that I've been really afraid of and how I have used some of these techniques to help me in that. But one of the things too is so if we think about that anxiety that you feel or whatever that barrier is, right, where do you notice it shows up? Is it really in your head? Is it in your throat? Do you get tense? Just kind of feel that. And I'm going to invite you to do a little bit of very, very easy stretching. All right, we're going to first just open up the sides of our neck and I'll guide you through it. We're going to just kind of open up this channel of where the voice sits in our body. As we invite the body to open, sometimes, right, the message eventually gets a little easier to come through. So I invite you to find yourself nice and sturdily seated. If possible, put maybe both feet, or both, at least so both thighs are on the chair, if that, pertains to where you are. Adjust your shoulders, make them as parallel as you can to the ground. And sit up tall, feel your spine, just notice where it is in your body, and then gently tilt your right ear. I'll mirror you. So bring your right ear toward your right shoulder, just a little bit. And just observe your breath and kind of see what it's doing. There's not a right or a wrong way to breathe here. And then maybe remind your shoulders to stay parallel or more parallel to the floor, just in the sense of sometimes it's easy to tilt all the way over, but we're just stretching the outside of the neck. So here, just breathe. Notice where in the side do you feel anything. Maybe you don't feel much right here. That's okay. Just breathe. You can think about that message. You can even think about where that barrier, that sense of, oh, I wish I could say what I want to say. Just feel that here as you invite your jaw to soften. So like relax the jaw a little. Maybe your tongue can soften away from the roof of your mouth. And then with your chin, tilt it slightly down. So your head is still tilted over to the right, but turn your chin slightly down. You can kind of play with that a little. Find a spot that feels like a nice stretch, kind of towards the back, but still the back side, right? The back left side of your neck. Again, remind the jaw to get a little bit softer. You might notice different shifts in your body here even. Good. And then still with your head tilted to the right, slightly turn your chin up. So you'll feel a stretch in kind of the left front side of your neck. Now for me, this stimulates a lot of tension in my jaw. I can really feel that, so I really focus on breathing into that. And even when I feel that tension there, then I'll say, okay, what am I nervous about? Or what barrier am I trying to overcome when I want to say what I want to say? And can I allow a little bit of something to soften? Usually something will trip in the mind. Good. Bring your chin back towards neutral and then lift your head. Kind of get your shoulders a little bit loose, and then we're going to do it again on the other side. So just softly tilt your left ear over to your left shoulder. Maybe it feels good to lick your lips. Relax your teeth away from each other so they're not clenching. If possible, you notice that you're breathing through your nose, or you could breathe through like an ooh sound. They're just suggestions, you don't have to do them, but they really help the nervous system calm down. We're talking about anxiety. Right? These things can really calm your nervous system. Another breath here or so, and then just slightly turn your chin down so you find that stretch in the back right side of your neck. I know this one can be a little bit aggravating for some folks too, right? Because we have these big muscles that run down our backs. And just breathe. Maybe even while your chin is still tilted and your ear is tilted to the side, imagine that there's just a gentle little string on your heart and you just can feel like it lifts up slightly. And then on your exhale, you notice some of that kind of extra weight maybe drifts down your body. And then turn your chin up toward the ceiling. Again, you kind of adjust to find where in that front right side of your throat you feel it. It may not be comfortable, but when we practice discomfort, we get to teach our mind and our body that it's safe to experience little bits of discomfort. Just a few more breaths here. Really feel into that message. Feel that barrier, right? Feel what you feel like gets in the way of you saying what you want to say. Good. And then bring your chin a little back towards neutral. Lift your head up. You might turn gently right and left. Good. Maybe bring your chin all the way down and then just kind of rock it side to side. Just kind of finding a little bit of gentleness in that space. I'm curious, we have heard one kind of barrier. Does anyone else want to share, like, what kind of barriers come up for you when you think about, gosh, that message, you just really wish that you could share more? Maybe you're already kind of sharing it, but you want it to come out even more strong. Like, what is that? What comes up for you? What prevents you from standing in your true message as strong as you would like to?
People being receptive.
Yeah, people being receptive. So is that like a sense of like being concerned of like what how they're going to respond? Are there any types of responses that you are more worried about than others? Yeah, they're not open to it. They kind of shut down. So it's like a rejection. Yeah, totally. Any others?
I'm going to piggyback off what she said. And just like in my mind, knowing is it the right? I don't like writing quotes. Is it the right answer? Is it the right comment and being judged?
So if you are going to say something, like, is it right? Or you're going to be judged, or people are going to think that what you have to say is wrong.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Or if they interpret it the way you say it.
Oh, yeah.
Say it because people interpret things so differently from one person saying 10 other people could interpret it 10 different ways.
Exactly. So it's the interpretation too, right? I mean, we say that we listen through the lens, right, through the way that we perceive the world. So a lot of times, and this is an interesting exercise, is if we think about the way that we hear as really a mirror for the way we think and respond to ourselves. This is sort of human nature, right? We project things out into the world that we're like worried about. So it's great to be aware of. I mean, we all do it. We're humans. This is part of it. But what we get to do is, okay, we get aware of these barriers, or we get aware of these emotional triggers, these little trick-ups that happen, or the anxiety that comes. All right, is there any other, or we have anxiety, we've talked about judgment, misinterpretation, any other barriers that you feel when you're trying to say that thing you want to say? Yeah, and there's no right or wrong. It's literally what you experience.
Guess, in my opinion, it would be being respected and seeing and asking if they could see through your eyes and be in your shoes for 10 seconds.
So you're saying say a little bit more about that to me, actually. Are you suggesting that's something that's a way to understand someone else's perspective, or to, share a little bit more?
Well, like an example, say you, and I don't understand how you live your life. Let me put myself in your perspective for 10 seconds, be in your shoes for 10 seconds, see things through your eyes for a few seconds to really grasp what you're trying to say. And for say, if you're having similar things that I am, we could be soulmates.
You're so right. And that this is the thing of like compassion and non-judgment are like best friends, or they're opposite sides of the same coin. And when I learned, 10 years ago, I remember I was in a yoga class actually, and I had set an intention, like for a prayer for myself that day of non-judgment. I'd caught myself judging someone. I was in a restaurant earlier that week, I think, and I caught myself judging someone. Like just thinking like, I think it was a pair of pants. Like, why would they wear that pair of pants? First of all, who cares? Like whatever. But this was probably more than 10 years ago. It was probably almost 20 years ago. And I remember I like caught myself in that. And so I like set this prayer, I set this intention of like non-judgment. And I remember what came up for me was like, okay, yes, compassion, but it's actually what was happening is I was like judging myself. I was limiting myself for what kind of pants I could maybe wear, or thinking about what does the world actually need to look like. So as we extend compassion and try to understand someone else's perspective, we're then in turn opening up the possibilities that exist for ourselves, right? We're saying, oh man, there's so many more than one way to be. When we interpret somebody's message, if we operate through that with compassion and put ourselves in that place, we then start to ask questions of, what do you mean by that? Rather than shutting ourselves down. So I find the more that I practice non-judgment for myself, non-judgment of others, then the more that confidence comes up in me, right? So with some of these, what I'd like you to do is, if you have written these barriers down, I'm interested, and you can just think about it too, I'll give you just a moment, but these barriers to you communicating your message. Consider it. If you've written it down, what I invite you to do is literally cross it off, and then write down what you think the opposite is. Like, what would the opposite truth be to that barrier? If you were going to speak up, and your worry was they're going to like judge what I have to say about that. They're going to think poorly of me. Write that off, and then what would a truth be to that? Maybe there's some other barrier, but especially these like emotional, mental ones. Right? If we cross it off and write what we desire to be true. You can just think about it. I'll let you have a little bit at a time, maybe just 30 seconds more or so, a minute. What do you notice as you're even thinking through this? What do you notice comes up in your mind? Like, what kind of thoughts do you have? Like, what would that opposite be? Do you notice, are you combating yourself? Are you trying to prove why that maybe wouldn't be true? Are you noticing little sparks of, oh, maybe there is a different reality? We'll come back to this. One of the things that's so important about our voice and our message is supporting ourselves with breath. Whether you're a singer or a stage speaker in theater, we really learn to use our diaphragm and our belly to hold us up so that when that voice wants to get shaky, when the nerves want to take over, we breathe and support ourselves. So much of this, and what I really am going to share again and again today, is this idea that we can teach our body to lead. We can teach our body to lead us in confidence. We can teach our body to lead our nervous system in these times, in these spaces where we get really nervous. That doesn't necessarily mean the words are different to say, but when we gain a different trust with the body, then maybe we can say one more thing than we had the courage to before. This is bit by bit progress. But we're going to do a breath exercise now. So again, find yourself in a comfortable seat. I want to say that with any of these exercises I'm inviting you into today, like, you should and can do them anytime in your own. But when you do them on your own, please find yourself in a space where you feel safe and uninterrupted. So, with your breath, first exhale your air, just get empty. And then breathe in through your nose, just breathing in. And then through your mouth, just exhale. Just kind of noticing what's going on here. And then breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your nose. Again, if nostril breath doesn't feel good, then just breathe softly through your lips. I'm going to count you in a breath pattern here. So to the count of 4, you'll breathe, you'll pause, you'll exhale, you'll pause. We'll do a couple rounds of this. Right? So on the bottom of your exhale, when you feel empty, you're going to inhale, right, for 2, 3, 4. Now pause and hold. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Pause at the bottom of that exhale. Hold there. Nice. Now inhale again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now pause. Try to soften your body just a little bit. Teach that nervous system it's okay. Now exhale. Good. Pause here. Hold it empty. Soften your belly just a little bit. One more round. Inhale. Maybe you feel a little bit more full this time. Pause. Your nervous system wants you to exhale, soften the nervous system, and then exhale. Get all the way empty. Hold when you're empty. Notice that your body is safe. Good. And then breathe in again. This time just let the air flow. Do you notice any differences in your body? Is there anything that shifts for you? If anybody wants to raise their hand, you definitely can. It's also just, yeah. Anybody? Notice any shifts? Yeah? Less tense. Do you notice anywhere in particular you feel less tense? The shoulders. The shoulders are directly connected right to our throat. And sometimes this stuff feels like, oh, how does this have to do, right? Oh, it's just this. But we're softening the body, right? Reminding the body it's okay. Yeah?
I've learned from my teacher, Heidi Bean, how to cope with situations. And we do similar exercises just like that. And I have learned that if you keep at it for a while, you seem less stressed.
Yeah.
I've also learned from my grounding exercises, which is basically my body check, where we see if our shoulders are tense, if our legs are stiff, or stuff like that to help us recollect ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When anxiety and tension come up anytime, it's the same thing that's holding us back in our voice. So as observing, we release that tension a little bit from the body, right? We're allowing our body to put more energy in what we want to say. If there's something you want to say, right, you can even just take one breath and calm it down. By continually practicing this, we support the body physically, and the more it's physically supported in the words, then you speak more confidently. I'm curious, does anyone want to share maybe one of the truths that you thought of as the opposite to a barrier that you feel when you're trying to say what you're trying to say? Or any questions about that, to be honest? Right? Are there any of like these truths? Yeah. Does it feel possible? Yeah. Say that again. Fear and confidence. Yeah, just this seemingly easy exercise of crossing off that thing that we're telling ourselves and then writing the opposite. Now, of course, there's action that we get to take to create this reality, but this gets to then become, okay, this is the reality I'm focusing on, trying to create. Now, what I want to do is invite you to imagine either that positive reality, or maybe phrase it another way. When, imagine if you did not have that barrier. Yeah, oh, got it. If you did not have that barrier, if you didn't have the fear, if you didn't have the anxiety, right, what would it feel like to say what you want to say? So either imagine the world, you could even paint it. Like if you were to show up in the world that you are describing in your positive statement, or this world that the barrier doesn't exist, what would it feel like? This is visualization technique, and we use visualization a lot in theater, we use visualization a lot in, right, trying to create a different world. We're teaching our body first so that then the mind and the voice follows. So really identify that. Gosh, maybe even what are you wearing? Gosh, if you were really in this like ideal situation, what are you wearing? How do you show up? What is the audience doing, or whoever you're speaking to? What would just feel so good? Okay, we're going to do one more exercise. This time we're really activating the voice. And I want you to imagine that space. Let it live in your body. This takes practice. It's all, if you've never done any of these body work things, it can be kind of different. But, you know, and so if doing this doesn't feel right, then you can totally just watch and observe. But have that sense of what is that future that future reality, that positive space, and imagine yourself speaking in it. We're going to do something called awe. Okay, it's literally just vocalizing the sound ah. I'm going to do it with you. I'll show you what you do. But what we do is we breathe in and then we exhale and say ah. But while you do it is imagine what that's like to be in that state where you are, gosh, maybe you're standing on stage and you have the microphone and you're telling the world that thing that's in your heart. Maybe you're raising your hand in a seminar and saying something that might feel controversial, but you are so empowered. What does that feel like? So you're going to imagine that while you say ah. Here we're physically creating vocal waves. You're hearing yourself in space speak while also attaching a positive thought to your voice that literally tunes your body, literally helps you realign the way you think. So I'm going to do it a few times over, and you can listen the first time and then join me, and we'll do it about 3 times all together, all right? So again, loosen up your arms. You might want to wiggle a little bit, like get the silliness already feeling a little bit there. And then exhale your air, right, with that intentional place in your mind to breathe in. And then you just say ah. And keep going until you get empty. Good. Exhale the empty air. We're going to do it 3 more times. Breathe in. Good. Squeeze the belly in to get all that out. Good. Yeah, you can keep going? Exactly. This is great. Okay, let's do 1 more round, all right? Breathe in. Feel that intentional space you want to be in. Fill it up in your body. You might close your eyes. Good. Keep going. Good. Get all the way empty. And then just breathe in a couple times. Let the air flood into your body. Awesome. What I really want you to know, right, is that these practices, right, awaken those fibers in your body. The more you can do them in and of yourself, like what is that little spark? Make a note. What's that one spark of something that came to you, that little inch towards confidence? A little bit more of that message. And now my invitation for you to leave here is I invite you to share that message with one person. Could be your partner, could be your friend, could be anybody. But I invite you to share it with one person, someone you feel safe with and someone you trust, where you get yourself in that uncomfortable place. Take a step forward, 1 step at a time. That message in you deserves to be heard. It's asking you to say it for a reason. I believe in you. If you have any questions, please come talk to me. Thank you so much for being here and for your willingness to participate. I appreciate you all so, so much. Thank you.